Isambard Kingdom Brunel, possibly the greatest sounding name anyone could ever wish to be christened. And while it does sound like a pimp from a Quentin Tarantino film, it does in fact belong to one of the great men of the Victorian era. A real man of the old school, mutton chop whiskers, 4 hours sleep a day, and 40 cigars a day this guy smoked. So while his breath probably did smell like Bob Geldof on a good day, he was in fact in possession of one of the greatest engineering minds of his generation. This guy could build anything. He built railway systems, underwater tunnels, bridges. I mean, you can forget about Steve Jobs. If this guy was around today, he could build you MacBooks with unlimited battery power, graphics in 3D, iPods in surround sound, though admittedly all steam powered. But he had a dream. He wanted to build a ship, not just any ship, but the biggest man-made movable object in the history of the world, bigger than the Ark. And so he went around trying to secure financial backing, and despite all his previous successes, no one wanted to know. It can't be done, it's impossible, too hard, blah blah blah. But eventually he got the backing he needed, and work started here in Millwall. They had to build a shipping yard big enough to house this thing, and a slipway, which you can still see now, that was going to put this boat in sideways because it was too big for the Thames. So work started and things were going along really well, but what happened was the money started to run out. And no one told Brunel this, but the backers started to shift things around and corners began to get cut. And after a while, strange things started to happen. Accidents on site, deaths on site, things went missing, fires, and then people went missing. Now Brunel's health started to suffer. The stress was starting to wear him out, but he kept going and going in a true British way. Eventually the big day came and it was time for the launch, and hundreds came from the surrounding areas to see the Great Eastern finally set sail. As they're launching this big boat in sideways, accident, another accident, a winch snaps and another handful of people die. Catastrophe after catastrophe, and over the coming weeks and months they winched this boat inch by inch by inch into the water because they just couldn't do it any faster. By the time the Great Eastern eventually hits the water, Brunel's dead. His health has deteriorated, the stress was too much. But this boat finally sets sail up the Thames. On its maiden voyage, the engines blow, and 5 other people die, roasted to death or some other horrible death. And from the day it hits the water until it gets scrapped 30 years later, the Great Eastern ship is blighted by catastrophe after catastrophe, and what began as the greatest engineering project of its day ended by being this rusting hulk up in Liverpool where it got sold for scrap metal. But while these guys in Liverpool were scrapping the ship, pulling panel from panel, they made a grim discovery. Welded in the walls of this great beast were 2 riveters, who had been trapped in there from day one, rotting away and eventually entombed for 30 years. The Great Eastern was cursed before it even set sail. Some tell tales, others rhyme, but I sing songs from the Howling Sea. If you're wondering what on earth you just witnessed, you've been watching a video from the Songs from the Howling Sea podcast. Each week I release a song and a video about a person or a subject from London's East End. 52 songs in 52 weeks. For more, visit www.songsfromthehowlingsea.com.